All right, ready? We're just going to do this one. It's my favorite. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here, you'd think, sure, she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's its and what's its galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. Okay,
that was great. No. That was great. That was great. And that's the introduction. So if you didn't know, today we have Beth, who sings, is great at singing Disney movies. And she's a singer. Not only is she involved with youth and super involved heavily with youth, but we also found out that she sings. And I think that's exactly how we should start the podcast off. So we're still here in our makeshift studio at Benchmark. The studio is still getting worked on. It's coming to a completion very soon. And before you leave, we'll like to show you what we're working on over there.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
But it's great. But that was amazing.
Thank you.
I did not.
I didn't know I was being recorded.
Yep,
but
there it is. But that was amazing. You really can sing.
Thank you.
You know, when most people say like they can sing, and then you be like, all right, well, sing for me. They're like, no. But you really can sing. That was great.
Thank you.
And I just watched Little Mermaid the other day.
My all-time favorite Disney movie.
Yeah. So, Beth, tell me a little bit about what you do now.
I'm a consultant. I help programs with their vocational and academic programming. So I get to kind of travel around Pennsylvania and hang out with different agencies, community-based, residential, and just spend time learning about their program and trying to add value to the great things they're already doing.
Okay. So you when you go to a program, like let's say you just go to a program, what does that look like for you, and how would you like add value? Like, do you have curriculum that you would share? Do you have like different things that programs can work on, or some things that they can change in order to be better? What does that look like for you?
Sure. So we have a bunch of different resources we can provide. Our big push is soft skills instruction. So we have an employability soft skills manual that we put together that has multiple different soft skills and paperwork, links, resources, all sorts of things that can help kids build those skills that they don't necessarily get. Like, I remember talking to kids. I worked at a facility before I worked here, and one of my jobs was to teach those soft skills and things that you think these kids are learning from their families, from like how to dress for an interview,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, like that they're so excited to learn, so
Right.
excited to know. And I had so many kids say, Miss, I'm so excited that you're taking the time to teach us these things that we don't learn in school. Because they think, oh, we don't need to know how to, average these numbers or find the square root of this
Right.
number. We want to know how do I balance my checkbook, my bank account? You know what I mean?
What is a check?
Right. What does any of this look like? And things that unfortunately I don't think kids get those life skills kind of things in school.
Right. And how important, like, to me, that's super important, right? Because growing up, I was worried about. No, I wasn't worried about. I was about to lie. I was not worried about school at all. But I was worried about living and surviving. And my dad and my mom didn't take the time out to explain to me what credit was.
Right.
So how impactful do you think, or how valuable do you think that learning these soft skills is for this youth?
I think it is extremely valuable. Like, it teaches them, because if you don't know these basic skills and you're kind of just struggling to figure out how to get from
Right.
one thing to the next, you know what I mean? If
Right.
you're taught these skills, So, programs like Benchmark, you give these kids a place where they can feel safe and not feel stupid for not knowing. You know what I mean? So they're in a safe place where they can ask those questions that they might feel dumb asking in a different situation where people might make them feel small.
Right.
So then once they learn and they know they have someone they can ask to gain those skills, I feel like it gives them a path to something different. Like I didn't know that if I start now, like, okay, so I'm 18. If I start now working on building credit, like I didn't even know what that was. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
so, but if now I start thinking about credit or about planning for retirement, like it seems silly. I'm 18. Why would I think about planning for retirement? But like, if you know about those things and you can kind of prepare yourself for the future when you didn't even know those things existed.
Right.
So
yeah,
and very important.
Yeah, I think creating, like you talked about, creating that safe space. Is there a lot of programs that you go to and they're able to teach these soft skills and they create that safe space where like kids can ask anything?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of programs. I've been privileged to be a part of so many great programs in the area where there's so much passion and desire to help these kids and teach them those crucial skills and like kind of help them navigate life in a way they didn't even think possible. And so it's amazing to see that connection and the passion in some of the staff. You know what I mean? Like every time I come here to Benchmark, I'm amazed at how. And, you guys have so much passion for the kids that you work with, like so much willingness to help them get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was a story, I listened to a podcast about, a Benchmark podcast about there was a young girl in your program who really wanted to go to prom. And she wasn't able to go because her dress didn't show up and her nail tech canceled. And the staff here at Benchmark, like, didn't just say, oh, here's some money to help you get a prom dress. Like, took her to the nail salon and took her to the store and helped her pick a prom dress. Like, that's next level care for the kids that you guys work with. And I love seeing those kinds of things.
Right, for sure. I think it's important that, you can tell a kid whatever, but when you show them and that I'm here for you every step of the way, it's different. And we're going to show you that, we're here for every single step of the way. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting in the nail salon, which I don't like sitting in the nail salon, but I would sit in the nail salon just to make sure that you're okay and you're getting what you need done for whatever event it is. And yeah, 100%. I think creating that safe space is super important and valuable when we have these type of conversations, because just a minute ago before we started recording, I was talking about midget league baseball, and I was trying to say that I wasn't talking about actual little people, but it's a safe space. So I felt comfortable, and it's okay that I made a mistake, right?
Right, absolutely.
So that's okay, and it's fine, but that is super important. I really want to know, how'd you get into this line of work? Where do you come from? Who is Beth?
So that's a long story. So my journey to this where I am now it starts long ago. So when I was in third grade, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. Before that, I was experiencing obsessions and compulsions, like washing my hands, literally until they were cracked and bleeding. I'd spend hours trying to make my hair perfect. As you can see, I don't really care at this point. But I would spend hours, trying to make my hair perfect. Everything had to be perfect. And my parents didn't know what was going on with me. OCD wasn't something that was known at that time. So went to many different psychiatrists and therapists to try to figure out what was going on. Until finally a psychiatrist was able to recognize what I was going through and actually shared a book with me. It was called The Boy Who Couldn't Stop Washing. And as I read through that book, it was the first time in years I felt like I could breathe, because I felt like, oh my gosh, I am not actually going crazy. Like there is an explanation, like a chemical imbalance in my brain. There's an explanation. So as I worked through that, I therapy.
How old were you when you read that book?
Probably fifth grade.
Fifth grade, you read that book.
Fifth grade, I read that book, and I read it and reread it and reread it
And when you read that, before you read that book, did you feel like you were like alone? Like,
yes.
Did you feel like I felt alone before, but did you feel like because I don't know a lot of people with OCD, so it has to be like, is it rare or like not common for everyone that
I'm as I've gone through my life and been more open about talking about it, I found that there are more people than I realized. There have been, multiple people that I've been able to talk to since that time that I've been able to kind of share my story with, but I don't think people are very ready to always talk about those kind of things unless they know somebody might understand, because it seems so weird.
Right.
Like I would spend hours standing like a crease where like two walls meet, or where like along the edge of a light switch. We called it in my house we called it rubbing creases. So I would like stand there for hours and like rub the same spot on the wall.
Yeah.
Why? Like,
Right.
How do you explain to other kids, 10, 11, 12-year-olds
And they probably
what you're doing?
They probably wouldn't want to admit it either.
Right.
I wouldn't want to tell you that I'm at home doing that, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely feel like I'm the only one doing that. And it's like, you don't wear a sign that says, "Hey, I have OCD."
Right.
So I would have never known that you had OCD at all, just
Right.
meeting you, right? So
Right. I got very good at. I'm better now at. I've learned how to not let the symptoms control my life as I've gotten older. But as a kid, I became very good at like hiding parts of me. You know what I mean? Like hiding that part of me because I was so afraid of. Because even like
'cause kids are mean.
kids are mean. Like
Kids are mean.
instead of recess, I'd be in the bathroom fixing my hair. So my nickname was Hair Queen. They called me the Hair Queen. And I've talked to kids from school
Right.
since then about like, people I now talk to as an adult. And they said, oh, we were just like, you had really great hair. We just were like, they didn't realize how that was affecting me. And that I was going home at night crying about the fact that these kids were bullying me when they were just saying I was the queen of hair.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
wild. So tell me more. All right, you read this book. You started to figure out a little bit about, I guess it resonated with you. And then what happened?
So as I moved along, my compulsions kind of shifted and it became more obsessive thoughts where I thought I was going to fail. Everyone was going to hate me. Like people, if two of you were whispering, I would think you had to be talking about me. So like
right.
my thoughts would just run away with me, and I'd have good times and bad times, but that led me through high school. High school was a little better than like junior high, but that led me through high school up until the fact that, or the point in time that I was like, okay, college, that's something that I should do. Like that's just the path that my family expected for me to take. So, I took a communications and journalism class in high school, and I was really into that class. I was like, okay, I think this is something I'd like to do. So,
Was it journalism?
Communications and journalism.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably something like, podcasts and,
Right.
that kind of thing. So I actually had pretty good grades in school. So I ended up with a full scholarship to a local university. I showed up to maybe the first week of classes, and my anxiety was so bad. I was panicking. I couldn't breathe. Like I couldn't function. And I tried so hard to overcome my like overwhelming fear of failure, of just not being able to succeed. And I was physically unable to like function. So after a week, I gave up my full scholarship and dropped out of college and went to work at Wendy's.
Wow, right? That's wild. I mean, I think that's a very normal thought for a lot of people, just like the fear to fail or not be enough, right? Mm-hmm. But this was how did like it changed from like the feeling the crease in the wall to your hair to fear of failure. How did that affect you in college though? So once you dropped out, did you?
So I once I
How did
dropped,
that affect you during work though? Like during work, are you? Because if I'm afraid to fail, I would be afraid to do anything, right? To come outside, or even to work at Wendy's, unless you really got Wendy's down packed to a T, and like everything is great. But
and I think that's what it was, because I had started my very first job right out of, while I was still in high school, was working at McDonald's, and there was some comfortability there because both my parents had worked at McDonald's in their younger years. So my dad knew the general manager, and so I kind of had that safe space where I knew people, and then I got comfortable with the job, and then I got McDonald's down. My manager left and went to work at Wendy's, so I went with her to Wendy's. So there wasn't that like newness, that change, that fear of failing at something, and not being able to do it perfectly. Like I think that was another thing that my OCD made difficult for me, is that if I was gonna do it, I better do it perfectly. So right. I was like, well, I got Wendy's down. I'm just gonna do that. Like I'm just gonna, but through the course of several years, as I'm just working at these dead end jobs with no hope for my future, my dad, to the point where he was driving me crazy. He was annoying me. He's like, what are you going to do? Work at Wendy's for the rest of your life? Like, how about you go to college? Just take one class. Like, it got to the point where I was so tired of hearing him talk that I was like, fine. Like, he annoyed me to the point where I was like, all right, fine. I'll take one class. Fine. But I said, I'm still terrified. So, my mom had gone to school, like, couldn't figure out what she wanted to be when she grew up, went to, a couple semesters when she was younger. And she's like, well, I was thinking about finishing my associate's degree. How about I come with you?
Ah, that's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
W mom.
Right?
That's a great mom.
Yeah.
So then y'all went to college together? She came with you?
We went to a different college because I was still terrified at this college that I went to originally. Like that was kind of outside of my reach. So we went to a small college for one class. I was like, fine, I'll do one class. So we took one class. The professor that taught that class, well, there was several professors. The professor who, like my advisor, whenever I first came to class, she was amazing. She was like, I told her my story, and she's like, no, we understand. Like, we got you. Here's a good first class for you to take. Like, if you need anything, I'm here. You can always talk to me. But here's a good first class you can take. This teacher she's a licensed counselor. She's going to teach this psychology class. And, I think it would be a good class for you to take. All right, I'll take this one class. So
that's great.
One class. Okay, this class isn't so bad. Maybe next semester I'll take one class. So I took one class, then I took two classes. Then my mom finished her associate's degree, and I was like, well, I went this far. I might as well, keep taking classes. So it took me 10 years.
Okay. But
two classes a semester, I ended up with a bachelor's degree in human development family studies somehow.
Right. That's amazing now. And I think that speaks volumes to just, who you are. Do you think would you give credit to your dad for pushing you and being so annoying to make you take that class?
Yes.
I think it's wild. And I learned this in my life too. It's important to do the uncomfortable work. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to get comfortable and just do what's easy to us, but putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, an unfamiliar situation, and doing the uncomfortable work gets you to how successful you are right now. Right. So everyone that's listening, everyone that's watching, make sure that you understand that you need to do some uncomfortable work in order to get to where you want to go. What's the saying? I think it's
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
What's the saying? If you want something you never had, you got to do something you never did.
Yep.
And that's just it's honest, it's true. Mm-hmm. And I think that's amazing that you were able. It doesn't matter. It took 10 years. You got it, right? You got a bachelor's degree, and guess what I got? I don't have any degree. Right? So but it took you 10 years to get a bachelor's degree. You took two classes at a time.
Right.
That's amazing. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Shout out to your dad. Shout out to your mom, and shout out to that advisor, whoever was helping you. Were you like physically, like you were in, like stayed in the dorm?
Mm-mm.
You went home?
So I had when I was married when I started. So I lived close by.
How was that? Getting married? How was like meeting your husband? How was like telling him you have OCD and him accepting that and still loving you and like, you know,
Yeah,
how
he's been very, very supportive. Like, yeah, he supported me through the whole college thing. Not to mention, like, and then while I was in college, I got pregnant, and that was a whole nother story.
Yeah.
My hormones went all over the place
Right.
with my pregnancy, so he had to deal with me for 9 months of crazy.
Yeah.
So no, he's been great. We've I think he struggles with some like hoarding type, which is similar in some ways to OCD.
Yeah.
So we've kind of tried to help each other work through some of those things. So
That's great. Where'd you meet him?
we actually met in that time, like at like a party house,
lit.
like where we were hanging out,
Yeah.
like, you know, not making anything of our lives. And when we met, then we decided like, this is not the life that we want. This is not, if we're going to make a life together, this is not the path we want for our kids. So then we both like took a step out of that life. And I think that also played a role in me deciding like, I got to do something different with my life.
I mean, that's great. Just pushing each other to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're up. So we were at. Tell me more after you got your bachelor's and what happened then.
So after I got my bachelor's, I figured. So at that time, I was working for the past 12 years. Before I started my bachelor's and while I was getting my bachelor's, I was working as a teacher assistant in an emotional support middle school classroom. So working with some more difficult youth who needed a little extra care and assistance, and it kind of made my passion for helping others grow.
Right.
You know, not only do I have this personal experience of mine, I'm finding so much joy in helping these kids who maybe don't have the best background, the best place to kind of to be able to kind of have a positive influence in their lives. So I'm enjoying being a part of this, and I'm like, okay, but there's nowhere for me to go. Like, I'm not a teacher, so I'm like a teacher assistant, but I don't have the teaching degree. But I want to do more than just be a teacher assistant in this classroom. And I've been doing this, but there's really nowhere for me to go with a bachelor's degree. Like, I'd either have to go get a teaching degree or I'd have to but I knew there was more for me. Like, I knew I wanted to do more. So like, well, I've been in school for 10 years. What's a couple more years to go get a master's degree? So I ended up going back to the same college that I dropped out of all those years before. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess the next step is facing that college that I couldn't go to. So that's where I decided to go. Ended up going there and getting a master's degree in social work. So that was was like, okay, so I finished that scary thing,
Right.
you know?
That's brave. You're brave. You're strong for that. Be able to do that speaks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
So then what happened? Masters? Now masters.
Degree.
What are you working with? Did you get a job?
So yeah, I got a job. Side story, as just to back up a little. So craziest thing in my life, not to add a sad spin to my, my dad was the one who pushed me through all of this, and you know, to get to where I needed to be to get here. He was the person that I was so excited to see me succeed.
Yeah.
And so I was supposed to graduate in May of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
January of 2016, I was in a massive car accident. I was T-boned by a big work van, and my SUV was completely demolished. They said if I had been in a car, I wouldn't be here. I had 31 staples in my head, a brain bleed, and a concussion. And then, so my dad, first person on the scene of the accident, you know, was there for me. He was, you know, he was retired at the time. He helped take care of my son. And 3 days later, I get a call from my mom in the middle of the night that my dad died of a massive heart attack. Like 4 months, 5 months before I was supposed to graduate with my master's degree. So that was hard. There was definitely a time where I thought that I wasn't going to finish because the one person that had pushed me and it was my biggest cheerleader through all of it wasn't going to get to see me finish.
Right.
But instead of using that as like a reason to quit, I used it as a reason to push even harder, like knowing that that's what he would want me to do. My dad dedicated most of his life to working with disadvantaged juveniles. So like it was.
This is where you come from.
Yeah, it's where I come from, and I was like, I have to like so. So I finished and ended up getting a job doing something very similar to what he was. I worked in one of the most secure juvenile placements in the state for 8 years as a social worker.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Facing that type of adversity, right? You just went through a car crash and then losing your father, facing that type of adversity and still overcoming. Is it a constant battle like every day with OCD?
Not so much anymore.
So there's a lot of things that you know how to cope with, and you know.
Yeah, so there's like a treatment. It's called behavior modification therapy. It's where you expose yourself to the things that give you the most anxiety, and your body learns how to cope with that. Like you can only stay heightened for so long.
Right.
Like, you can only stay in a heightened state. So if it's like I touch something, I feel like my hands are dirty and they almost feel like they're burning and like I need to wash them. Do you know what I mean? If I can, first you might sit there for 30 seconds with your hands feeling that way. And then, he says we're back on then. So I might sit for 30 seconds with my hands feeling like I need to wash them. And then eventually it becomes easier and easier to cope with. So through the years, the more I challenged myself to do these hard things, it works the same with the obsessive thoughts. The more I would challenge myself to do the hard things, the easier those hard things became.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you're living in this space. So like the fact that because I had the same kind when I started grad school, I had the same anxiety I had when I started each new thing. But this time I knew I could do it. I pushed myself throughout grad school. I probably went through several months where I struggled to eat. I'm like crying. I'm like,
right.
But on the outside, people that's the thing. We don't realize what people are fighting on the inside when we get so good at putting a face on the outside. So I'm inside. I'm feeling like I'm going to be a failure. I'm not going to make it, like that I'm not good enough to be doing these things. People on the outside are seeing the person who is blowing the curve. Right. I graduated undergrad and grad school with a 4.0.
Crazy.
But that's because and everyone on the outside sees this confident person who is killing it in academics and like doing what they need to do, but inside I'm this scared little girl from elementary school who is so terrified of failing that I force myself to strive for perfection because I don't want to. I'm so terrified to fail because what does that mean? So it's, I guess for me, like the biggest growth that I have experienced is, you know what? Sometimes good enough is good enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to let people in and let people see that side of you that struggles. And I think, and as I worked with these juveniles in this facility, that was the thing that helped me connect to them the most. Like I know our stories are not the same. Do you know what I mean? Like these kids that, like kids that came from inner city Philadelphia, and they're dealing with, constant a cycle of drug use and a cycle of gun violence and all of those things. Like my way to, like, I would talk with them, was like, listen, I know our stories are not the same, and I will never pretend to understand the hell, excuse my language, that you've gone through. Right. Like, but I just want you to know that my battles might be different, but we all have them.
We all face adversity.
Right. And so if we can just be open to understanding each other and realizing that even though our stories are different, inside we're not all that different, then that's where we can work together and we can grow.
100%. I feel as that, yeah, I 100% agree with you. And you said it great. But you think that the biggest, before you can do the type of work that Benchmark's doing, these other programs that you visit and you help out, before we can actually do the work where we're teaching you soft skills, we have to be able to create this safe space and allow you to take down the mask, though, right? So we all put, and you can say whoever you're not. If you're the toughest guy, you eat nails for breakfast. You don't do that all the time.
Right.
People see me and they think I'm super tough, all these tattoos. When I'm with my son, the softest person you'll see. When I'm with my kids, when I'm with my daughter, the softest person you'll see. Right? So I can't be tough all the time. You can't be tough all the time. It's a lot of work to be tough all the time.
Can you imagine, like, growing up, like your kids, like as they see you, they see the soft guy, and can you imagine like how that's going to impact them when they hear your story,
right?
Or they hear what you overcame, the things that you worked through to get from where you came from and what you went through to be the person you needed to be for them.
100%. Yeah, I think we all need somebody, and I think the things that I went through, the adversity that I faced, I learned a lot of what not to do or who I don't want to be. So if you ask me, I ever seen my dad cry? I seen my dad cry one time when I was in the hospital when I got shot, just one time, and it was like 2 tears. That was it. But I've never seen my dad cry. I've never seen, so going into, being a parent and stuff like that, I view it a lot differently. Like, I want to be everything that my dad wasn't to me, so I don't miss a game.
So how many times have your kids seen you cry?
Probably none. They're probably too little. I'm just not much to cry about now. I'm real like.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
There's not much to cry about now. Life is the way my outlook on life now is real positive. So there's not much to cry about now. There is times where, like, I miss my friends that died and stuff like that, but usually that's when I'm probably most likely by myself, because when I'm with my kids, I'm not thinking about that stuff at all. So yeah, they haven't seen me cry, but I know if there is a time where I'm going to cry in front of them, I would cry in front of them. It wouldn't be like, oh no, hold on, gotta be strong.
Right.
This is strength. I'm showing you what strength is, right? Allow myself to be a man and cry in front of you.
And that's hard to do. It's hard to do because I used to try to hide my emotions from my kids too.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you to see this side of me who's, struggling or falling apart but you know what we teach them? By allowing them to see us in our vulnerable moments, and this goes for more than just our, biological children,
Right.
But when we allow our kids and the kids we work with to see us in our most vulnerable moments, we're not showing them how to be weak. We're showing them how to learn from that and to be resilient. We're showing them, if you never show people your weakness, like the people you're trying to help and mentor, if you never show them your weakness,
Right.
you never teach them how to deal with that and how to overcome the things that you're struggling with. Like no one goes through life without having difficult times.
100%.
And if they never have role models of what it looks like to work through those difficult times in real, like with real emotions and in real time, they're never going to learn the best way to cope with those things.
Yeah, I've learned that too. Working with like just the youth that we work with, we have a lesson called you read a lesson to your past self, or sometimes we'll switch it and I'll tell them to write a letter to their little brother, or write a letter to someone that died and that they miss. And we get up and we start sharing these letters. You'll be surprised how many people start crying in this room, right? Everybody starts tearing up a little bit. Even when you hear somebody else's story, you start tearing up a little bit because, we're all human at the end of the day. And I don't want you to have, I feel bad that you had to go through what you went through.
And that's amazing that you're having them do this now, because in all the therapy and all the things that I've worked through in my life, it was just within the last 6 months that I wrote a letter to my younger self. And it was so impactful.
Right.
So like that, what you're doing, like that's amazing. Yeah.
This is yeah. It's difficult, and I think it's scary to do that work, and like we said, doing the uncomfortable work, putting yourself in certain situations and circumstances where you have no choice but to grow. It's scary, and getting up in front of a bunch of different kids every different 5 days when we got a new room of students, and I'm sharing something else. I'm sharing something different. A lot of letters that I wrote to my daughter. I wrote to my friend that passed away. I wrote to my dad, and I wrote to myself. I wrote to my little brother that works here. So a lot of different emotions. You could get me anywhere, right?
Right.
But we've all faced adversity, and I think it's amazing to hear your story and look at you, right? Because when you walk into a room, immediately the kids think that this person they got a good life.
Right.
They didn't face any adversity, right? We immediately write someone off that looks like you. But the truth is, we all face adversity. Just, and sometimes it's similar adversity, but you cope with things and you go through things in a different way than how I deal with it.
Right.
But we've all faced adversity. And I think that if we can all understand that we all have faced some type of adversity, then we can all kind of give each other a little bit of a break when meeting someone. And that's what we do when we meet these kids. I don't know what you've been through, but I'm going to assume that you've been through something.
Right.
We'll handle it like that. And that's how we build our relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
But so tell me more about Beth. Tell me, how'd you get, so you're working at the detention center. You're working with these kids. You're trying to get them to be vulnerable. You're in their space, right? Is that how you just let this I'm sorry. Did this job lead into what you do now?
So yeah, so that job, working more directly with the kids, which I loved, and that's actually the part I missed, but I wanted to have even more of an impact. I wanted to keep going. So I had this opportunity to reach out to more organizations that serve more kids, across a wider span. So, I that's why I like coming, like I love coming to Benchmark like in the evening to like kind of be a part of the programming, because that's the part that I do miss, is that more of that direct interaction with the kids.
That's who you are.
Right.
That's where you come from. So.
And I even now to this day, I still get calls from kids that I worked with. Hey, miss, guess what I'm doing now? And that is great. That's the most amazing part of that job is having those connections and knowing that, you might not have an impact today, but the things that you say, the things that you do, they're going to stick with them for when they're ready to receive them. You know what I mean?
And you can't pick what stays with them. So you got to be mindful of what you say.
Right.
Because you don't get to choose like what they retain or what they remember, like when you speak to them. You don't get to choose it. So sometimes when you say something crazy or something, that might forever impact that kid. He'll forever remember it.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that led me to what I'm doing now, and crazy thing that went full circle is, as I'm looking to make more of an impact, I reached out to, I was just looking for other things to do, like to make more of an impact. Well, I got a call maybe 6-8 months ago from one of my professors at the school where the school I spent 10 years, attending.
Yeah.
And so she asked me if I had any interest in teaching a class. What? Like, yeah. I couldn't even walk into this school without my mom, by myself. And now they want like me, like, what, how do I have the ability to like teach people? Like, I feel, still struggle some with those insecurities, but they asked me if I'd be willing to teach a class. And so as terrified, like I still struggle sometimes with those like fears of, not being good enough, but realizing like I do have something to offer. So fighting those fears, getting better at fighting what my brain tells me, you know what I mean? That those, and I know we all have those feelings like I'm not good enough, or, these things that we have to fight within ourselves. But so it kind of comes full circle, and I'm going to I'm going to be now working with 2 of the professors that helped guide me through my undergrad program, and I'm going to be teaching an advanced abnormal psych class in the fall and the spring. So
that's wild.
That's kind of how it's wild how life, kind of comes full circle. So even in my difficult moments when I'm struggling so much, somehow I still had an impact on those professors, enough for them to remember me and my story and want me to give back. And one more piece of that, when I was giving so I had to go do a teaching demo. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so now I got to stand in front of these kids and figure out how I'm going to teach a class. So I was like, you know what? Why not take the thing that got me here and use that as like I'm teaching about abnormal psychology. That's basically about like different diagnoses. So I might as well talk about my diagnoses. I might as well talk about OCD.
Right.
But I decided to like sell it as a case study, like not tell them it was me. And I started and I told my story, right? So I'm like,
right.
But I used some name, Amber, some random person's name. And I kind of slowly started telling the story and asking them questions. And I'm like, so what do you think the outlook is for Amber, after she's gone through all of these things, this, childhood traumas and mental health conditions, struggle with jobs, struggle with school, struggles with, alcohol use and not making good choices, in life. And it's so funny. So there were probably like 12 people, kids, professors that showed up to this teaching demo. So I'm asking them all these questions. Yeah. And I loved it because they're like, well, I don't think things are going to turn out very well for her. Like, I don't think she has much of a chance at all at being successful. And then I got to, at the end, after I told the whole story, I got to tell them, like, this is not a made-up story about Amber. This is me.
That's beautiful.
And then one girl in the class, and this was what told me, like, this is what's supposed to happen. At the end of class, one girl came up to me and she said, I am so happy that you're going to be teaching my class. And I'm like, oh yeah? She's like, yeah. She's like, 2 years ago I was diagnosed with OCD. And you don't know how much it means to have someone who knows what it's like to go through something similar to what I'm going through, teaching me in a class. What? Like, right. It just blew my mind. And yeah.
I think, it's like I said, your entire story, we sit here, we're talking about facing adversity and how your story speaks volumes and things like that. But I'm super proud and I'm happy to know you. And I'm happy that we have this platform here at Benchmark for you to share your story. And some of these kids can watch this podcast and understand that you're not, number one, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Number two, do the uncomfortable work. Yep. And understand and have some type of empathy and some patience for everybody, because everyone faces adversity. And that's real things that everyone needs to know. So I really want to thank you, and I appreciate you for coming on here and sharing your story.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, hopefully we can do another one too.
I'd love that.
I think we probably need another episode to finish everything and wrap everything up.
All right.
I appreciate you though.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you.